Rev.Jessie Brandon, and this is Epiphanies, and we're coming to you today from the home of Vanessa Dewsbury because she has her Christmas tree up, and I wanted a little bit of the season. And of course, as you know, I'm a life cycle celebrant and a metaphysical minister, and I get to have this show where I bring together two of my great loves, people and books. So I hope you're settled into your cozy chair, and today we're talking about that fabulous book by Charles Dickens called The Christmas Carol. And what I wanted to sort of start with was that the elements that I see in that movie is, of course, it starts out with greed, and then it goes to an awakening, sort of a reckoning with the three ghosts that come to see him. And through that, he becomes benevolent. He realizes that charity and giving is the happiest way to be around Christmas. And then, of course, there's love, because he finds love for his Bob Cratchit's family, and it's just a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. So, Vanessa,
yes,
what did you do?
What did I do?
Yeah, did you read the book? What did you do?
So we ended up watching the movie. I was going to read the book, but our whole family, we thought it was a good idea for everybody to sit down and watch it together. So that's what we did.
Yeah, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was a lovely experience. I wanted them to, I think my stepdaughter had only seen it, not Sarah, so I wanted everybody to enjoy it. And
what did you get from the movie then? What spoke to you?
I liked my cat.
Hi, Annie.
I liked that. So it was interesting because they went back in time, and he mentioned the word shadows, which was kind of interesting to me because when we think of our shadow self, right, we reflect back and look at the dark parts of ourselves. A lot of the times we don't want to look at those parts of ourselves, but he was kind of forced into it. And they mentioned the word shadow, so I thought that was kind of interesting. Because that's what happened. He kind of went within his shadows. That's when he found love, and that's when he found gratitude, but he was lacking that, so it was in those shadows he found it. I also liked how his employee was always grateful. He was grateful no matter what what was happening at work, and Ebenezer would be rude to him, and he'd still be so joyful and kind. And he'd go home, he went home, and they were complaining about, his wife was complaining about him, and he was still smiling and grateful. And it made me think of, like, regardless of our experiences, we can still be grateful, and that's what he chose to do. Yeah,
that's really cool. Yeah, that's when you talk about the shadow part, that is where we find our true selves. We find the gifts in the shadow and can learn to love ourselves. And I think that for him, he got to see himself, how he behaved towards people, and he didn't like it. He didn't like who he brought to the table, and so that's what caused him to think about his actions and to change his ways. And I think that speaks to what I believe we're here on earth to do, is to completely look at how we bring ourselves to the world, and by reacting instead of responding, and thinking about, you know, the harshness of our own lives instead of trying to find that silver lining. So I think that movie and the book completely has such a backstory to it.
Like deeper than we see. Self-awareness, right? He wasn't aware of he wasn't consciously aware of what he was doing. So for him to be shown, I think sometimes we're not thinking like outside, or we don't see outside of ourselves, right? We only see. And another thing too is, like, I notice that sometimes when you're feeling low or down for myself, when I reach out and do something for somebody else, it completely changes my state, because I've taken myself outside of myself, and I've thought of somebody else besides myself. Because I can find, when I had my health issues, I was consumed with self. I was consumed with self. But then I would find when I would do like an act of kindness or something, it would completely change my state. I'd done something to self. And then also too, he mentioned about suffering. The nephew, I think it was, he made a comment about his uncle. I don't know if he said choosing to suffering, but that word was in there. And again, it's something else we choose to do. We have our experiences, and you know, we need to process them and feel them out, feel them so we don't stuff them down. But how long we choose to hold on to that and choose our own suffering is our own choice.
Yeah.
Like the power of choice, right?
That's so true, because when you start out, you're unaware that you're doing it to yourself. But then when you become aware, I think that things get tougher and get bigger because you're faced with that choice.
Yeah.
And if you don't do something to make yourself feel better, then it gets bigger and harsher.
Bigger,
yeah. So he had to sit down and really look at the way he was living his life, and he didn't want to deal with those shadows and the past anymore. He didn't want the past to be the road that he still continued to walk on. So
yeah, and I was gonna say too, it's like he would show him moments and he would really turn away. Like he was so ashamed of his behavior that he didn't even want to see that. Right? So at what point in our lives do we take responsibility for our behavior and for how we are reacting to people? It's all self-awareness, and it's all going within. And like we said, we find our light in our shadow, and in that darkness. It's always waiting there. It's just us being brave and courageous to like go within ourselves to expose our own light.
yeah, absolutely. I was, funny as you were talking, I was thinking about, I don't know, I know there's several variations of the movie, but the one I always remember is when the ghost opens his coat and there's the starving children there. And that to me is emblematic of the rest of the world. And I know that we can't change the world, but we can change our world. And we can change our corner of the world by just doing those kind things for other people. And it really, it really is so easy. I mean, I went last year when they were selling off all kinds of winter stuff, and I bought a big bag of scarves and stuff, and I'm going to take that down to the Busby Center because I just know how horrible it is to feel cold and to be out in that cold. And I also feel that when people who are suffering have less, then you can give them just that little bit of comfort. And so that's the kind of thing I like to do with that.
His house, I noticed his house was like so big and empty and cold feeling. And for me, I felt like that was like a reflection too of what was inside of him.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
good
coldness and just wanting to hoard so much to have all this space, but for what?
Yeah,
it was interesting. The writer of it, like to know that the deeper message that was in there. I don't know. I wonder how old that is. So he's 50 years old. That's what they say. He was 50. And he looks, I thought he was in his 80s. He looks so old.
I did too.
Yeah.
I did too.
So it's interesting how that came out. It almost aged us. I don't know. It's a very good movie.
Yeah, I think that when we carry our past and when we carry our resentments and everything, it does age us.
Oh yeah, completely.
Because I know that people tell me all the time that I look younger than I am, and I think that in part it's because I do my work and clear out the stuff that's not serving me. And for me, I know that I just have so much joy and love in my life that it shows in my face. And I think that that's what you're talking about in that movie is the fact that his demons, they show in his face.
Yeah, on the outside of him. Yeah, his insides were reflected on the outside.
Yeah.
But it's nice how joyful he was after. He was so thankful and so grateful, and people were so shocked and surprised at his change.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cute, the little boy, when he gave the money to get the turkey.
Yeah, when he throws the money out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cute. And the fact that the child comes back with the turkey
I know.
is amazing, because you would have thought that he would run with the money. But I think there's an example of good character and the, I was going to say the joy of the season, but I was actually listening to, well, of course I've been listening to Christmas carols since November, and I like the fact that they lift me up and they make me feel so happy.
Yeah.
But I wish somehow that people could carry that. I think it's, I will carry Christmas in my heart always is one of the things that...
like Jen CP.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she starts celebrating. It's only 364 days. I think she does on Boxing Day.
Yeah, it's cute.
And yeah, it's really cute. And I wonder sometimes, how can we continue to have that feeling of joy and love and
the magic too.
The magic, yes.
Yeah.
How can we help people create that in their lives? You got any thoughts about that?
Well, it's interesting. And we were talking about him having an awakening too, but I noticed before I started living in a state of gratitude, I didn't enjoy Christmas. I didn't like spending money, but that was my mindset back then. And that shifted. But I find I'll be happy just for no reason. Joe, I'll say, I feel so happy. And Joe's like, how come? I'm like, no reason. I've created that state. So I think to have gratitude in your life, right? You can become like conscious and say what you're thankful for, but then you become just the state. So your state is gratitude. And I think that would be how, is to carry that magic, which I do as well. And many people I know by gratitude. You get so joyful. Everything brings you joy, like from a pretty teapot, right? And you just become so thankful for everything. So I think gratitude can help you carry that joy and magic. And it only elevates when it is certain times of the year. Yeah,
I totally agree. I was heading somewhere in the last few days where I had to give just a talk, and I was preparing in the car because I never write notes. I always come from my heart to the best of my ability. And I began to count the blessings in my life that led to this moment. And by the time I was halfway there, I had such a silly grin on my face. Amazing. And when I realized it, I laughed out loud because I thought, I was already in a good mood, but I just felt so grateful and so blessed. And I thought, you know what? That's the way to do it. Count your blessings. Look for the things that, even if they're in the past, don't look at the dark, look at the light to bring yourself up and to just be really, beautiful. Yeah, it was great.
And it's so true. It's like most things that when we are thinking a lot of times, it's thinking of the future with worry. So we're not even thinking of fear. Or fear. We're not thinking of how far we've come. Like, we've made it this far. Look what we've accomplished and what we've achieved. We're still worried about the future. My mom used to say to me, 9 times out of 10, nothing happens. And it's true. You worry and then nothing really happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I say that to my partner, Bear, all the time because he likes to do the what ifs so that he's prepared. And I say, but calling up the what ifs, they cause me to become closed in instead of open and ready, because I know nothing can hurt me. I could lose my life in this world, but I won't lose my soul. My soul continues on. And when I came to realize that, it just made me, I don't fear death anymore. So
yeah, and it's interesting. I was talking on my coaching call the other night about the difference between intuition and fear, because sometimes we are fearful and we worry that it's our intuitive feelings. But I always say our intuition comes from a calm, neutral place, compassionate place, and a light place. Fear always feels heavy, and it's attached with an emotion. And it's always usually to be worried about something. So it's a way to tell the difference. But, oh, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to know, I'm sorry, I meant to ask this before. I want to jump back again to the kids. Did you ask them what they saw or how they felt, or did they say anything after they saw it?
Yeah, they enjoyed it. They enjoyed the message.
Did they pick up on any of the deeper stuff?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, because I know they're young, what, 12 and 15?
Yeah, but that's our lifestyle is, like, they see Joe buying Christmas presents every year for kids at work, and we'll do the same thing and make donations. So that's part of their lifestyle. So they were able to see that message and know exactly what he was talking about.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's nice to see kids realize that, you know. I know there's that old "'tis better to give than receive," and I know that there are challenges to that, but when you get down into it, it really is nicer to be able to put a smile on someone else's face. And someone on Facebook was just asking what one thing you had done to give kindness or joy to somebody else, and everybody was listing all the things they had done, and I had to think about it because I don't really pay attention to it. I'm always smiling. I'm always kind to clerks and you know, people that I'm purchasing things from, and I did come up with something and it escapes me right now, but it was more fun to watch everybody else say what they had done. And I thought it was really great that this person had asked the question, because there again, it causes us to reflect and look at the things that we're doing and how we can, you know, give that to others.
Yeah.
You know,
bring more kindness to others.
Yeah, exactly.
I also, with the movie too, like we always talk about leading with love or motivated by money. So he was motivated by money throughout his life, and he put out that energy, and that repelled a lot of people in his life. And then he chose to begin to start leading with love, and that's the authentic, pure energy of what we are. It's a real energy, and people are more receptive to it, and they're drawn to it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that puts me in mind of when I used to be in a group where we studied things like energy and how to use it and what it looked like, because you don't think of energy as being something you can see, but where you see it is in people's actions. And so one of the tests they did is we held the copper wires, and they said, the instructor said, okay, I want you to project something. I want you to project love. I want you to think about something that brought you a lot of love or brings you a lot of love. And they started to slowly swing. And she said, okay, stop them. Now I want you to think about anger, something that makes you mad. And they were just whipping. And so the point there is, there's 2 points that I have, is number one, anger can project so much further that we really need to concentrate on bringing the love out and maintaining that in a consistency. And then the second thing that she said to be aware of is, for instance, if you walk into a restaurant and they have one of those soda bars, she said, if someone is sitting alone and no one is sitting near them, check out the energy. She said there's probably something going on for that person that people can unconsciously feel, and so they skirt away from it. So I started to watch that. No matter where I went, if I saw somebody that looked upset or whatever, and it's true, you can see people cut a wide swath around them so that they, because we know, we really do know on an unconscious level where we're supposed to be and what's going on. And I know it took me forever to wake up. I mean, I had signs, and I used to feel really badly that I had missed them and not taken action earlier in my life. But you know what? The path is always there, and it doesn't mean you're heading for a particular destination. We deviate all the time, but we always come back to the path. And I'm just so grateful that enough things brought me awake, and so I can see the joy in just being love and wanting peace for everybody. And I think that's why we do the work that we do, is to help people wake up and to help them see how they can change their lives, not change it for them. There's nothing I can do that can make someone change, but I can certainly help them see how they would feel better if they did just, you know, work on one thing, one or two things for a little while, and then all of a sudden you realize it's become your way of being. And so tell me about your work. I know that you're doing some new stuff. So
I'm a Reiki master and author of Heart is Where the Home Is, and I do spiritual life coaching, and that's to help people remember who they are. And I do it through self-awareness. Forgiveness is a huge part of my program. Limited beliefs, recognizing and kind of getting rid of the limited beliefs. I just help people along their journey. And I found people were coming to me on their own spiritual journey with questions. So that's why I took my life coaching course, and I was doing a little bit of something different, but like for me, for my heart and where I feel in my element is the spiritual life coaching, helping people remember who they are in mind, body, soul, and spirit connection. We stray away from ourselves, and that's when we find we have the disconnect. So
I want to ask you specifically about the forgiveness. Why is that such an important part to you?
Holding on to unforgiveness takes up a lot of space and energy in our body. It takes up a lot, and we hold it heavy. We can think of something that happened 10 years ago and still be angry or upset, and we're carrying the energy. So it's important for me to help people go through whoever they feel hurt them, go through the feelings and the emotions and the experience and actually feel it, because otherwise it's just stuck down there. Feel it, deal with it, and then release it, either through writing or through intention. And then it clears that space. It's a heavy energy. It's a heavy energy, so it makes you feel weighted down. The same thing with when people come for Reiki treatments and they come up, and the same thing they always say is, I feel lighter. Oh, I feel so much lighter. They've released energy, a heavy energy that they were carrying around, whether it's stress or from their work, whatever it is. So yeah, forgiveness is key. We want to create and clear that space to allow more love and abundance and energy in. And again, it's something frightful that people are, like, daunting for people to do. But if we want to experience joy and all of that those things that we talk about, we need to go within and recognize what's happening in there and what are we holding on to.
Exactly. One of the things that I want to say about that is that we have to understand that we can't just pretend to be better. I know there's that saying, fake it till you make it. And I actually believe that if you're trying to change a behavior.
Like a habit, completely.
However, I think that you do need to really get in there and think about the things, not endlessly. I don't believe in therapy for years. I just think you need to recognize that those things that happen to you that are causing you that unforgiveness for yourself and for someone else, or resentment, all those things are taking up space, and if you hang on to them long enough, they're causing pain in your body. And the meeting that I was at, one of the women said that she had a hip that had gotten so bad that she now believes she'll have to have hip replacement. And I walked her back, and she knew exactly when she'd heard it, and it was really quite calamitous. And she had a house full of people. She fell down her basement stairs, and she never told a soul. And she has hurt that hip repeatedly by falling and just, you know, different things. And it's now to the point. And I said to her, do you think maybe you should have a conversation with your hip? And she was like, well, yeah, I guess I should take better care. And I said, well, I asked you what you do with your me time, and you said, oh, you know, you walk the dog and you do this and you do that. And I said, but what I mean is that inner me, that place in you that needs to know that you're grateful and thankful, and that you love your body. No matter what you look like, that vehicle is getting you through life. And if you are able to just think about and feel the way your body works for you, and find those pockets of places that are causing you pain, and just say, you know, talk to me. What happened? How can I help you? I related to her about the place in Pecos, New Mexico, where I was, and the woman with the injured hand.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that story? I won't go through it now, but the end result was her hand was immovable, and she'd hurt her arm in an accident and ignored it. And just through, you know, about 36 hours or so of caressing her arm and thanking her arm and asking for forgiveness for not taking care of herself, she was able to move her hand. And I just think that the body is just waiting, just listening for you to say, thank you. How can I do things better? And you posted something about that. It was the story about going into meditation and then just thanking your body and going through each part of your body and saying, you know, how can I do things better? How can I care for you? And so forth. And I just thought it was so beautiful. It's actually a meditation that you can do with yourself. And I know, you know, it sounds corny to some people. There's a lot of people that I don't hang with anymore because they kind of think some of the things I say are a little bit crazy. But I have found them to be true.
And if you think of Ebenezer Scrooge's back too, he's 50 years old and he had a huge hunch, right? So he was holding on to a lot. And when I like to think of symbolizing, like I have clients that come in with knee pain on their right knee, and I say, well, what recently happened? Like, well, I felt I was really right about a situation. We hold it. So for me, it would symbolize his back is his past. It's behind him, but he's holding on to
And the
right?
weight of it is causing him to bow over.
And to not see straight, right, into the future. He just and in the present, it's just holding him back. But yeah, it's what we hold in our bodies is like so powerful. And yeah, talking to your body, I know it does sound weird to people, but if we understood how powerful energy is and what we hold on to and carry, and like we were saying earlier, someone can walk into a room and we'll know they're upset. They don't have to say a word, but we feel it. It's so strong. That's why it's hard with workplace environments, because a lot of people may not be happy with their job. So everybody's coming with that energy. And a lot of times we're leaving with stuff that isn't even ours. So I share with my clients to ask yourself if this is mine, because that's one thing that we do. And like you said, with going in, it's a gentle process. And with my clients, I don't expect them to have a week to complete something. When we're doing inner work, it took so many years to get to where we are. It needs time. We need to be so gentle with ourselves. Yeah. We don't just rush into the healing. It's a gentle process.
Yeah, absolutely, because I think awareness is 50% of the work right there, becoming aware that this is the way it is, and that you can heal yourself in so many ways. You may not be able to heal yourself of MS or Parkinson's or the diseases that have taken hold. I don't know. There are many who say that it is possible. But what I do know is that you can heal so much of the hurt and pain that you carry, that, you know, just forgive yourself for whatever part you played in whatever happened, whether it was through a non-response and therefore it caused you to now be angry with yourself for not responding. It doesn't matter what it is, just find that place in yourself where you can say, I'm sorry, I love you. Jesse Morrison does that Ho'oponopono from Hawaii, and it's a beautiful thing. I can't remember it all right now, but it's thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, I love me. Kind of, and it's really beautiful, and it's a phrase that you can repeat over and over. Yeah,
and forgiveness of self is like key. That's where it has to start.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Well, Vanessa, I've enjoyed so much sitting and talking with you about that beautiful movie, A Christmas Carol, written by Charles Dickens. And I actually think that it's probably over 100 years old. I don't really know.
I have to check on that.
Yeah. We have a question.
Thank you for having me. This was lovely as always.
And thank you for opening your home to me and the camera crew. And I want to say a special thank you to my producer, Deanne, because she made this all happen. And I want to thank you for joining us today on Epiphanies. We did the Christmas Carol, and I hope that you have a wonderful, happy, Merry Christmas.